Hello and welcome to this edition of Radio Free HPC. This is where we talk about supercomputing, high-performance computing, and other technology topics. I'm your Toastmaster, Rich Breckner, with my co-hosts, Dan Olds and Shaheen Khan from Orion X, and Henry Newman from Seagate Government Solutions. Now let's get to the show. All right, we're back with Radio Free HPC, a very special edition, pre-SC18. Today, this is Rich Breckner from insideHPC, and we have Dan Olds from Orion X and Henry S. Newman. The S stands for storage. So, guys, welcome back.
How you doing, Rich?
Good, good. I'm really excited, Dan. You know, this particular SC18 is looking to be really special in Dallas, and a lot of big plans coming up. We're just going to have a great time. Yeah.
Huge plans.
Huge plan. A lot of malfeasance even in the works, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How you doing, Henry?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
It's just been a long week. I want to go over this because I always love the student cluster, Dan.
Yeah, let's jump into the student cluster competition. It's our annual preview of what will be happening at SC18. For those of you that are uninitiated, student cluster competitions have been happening for the last 11 years.
Oh my!
At SC conferences, and there's 3 major competitions throughout the world. The one at SC, we have one in Asia, and there's also one at ISC in Germany.
Yeah.
And the whole deal here is that teams of undergraduate students, and there's going to be 14 teams at this competition, they put together their own clusters and essentially race them live on the show floor in a 48-hour marathon of blood, sweat, tears, benchmarks, and real scientific applications.
Well, what's at stake, though, Dan? I mean, is this just for vanity? Do they get a trophy? Why would they go through all that rigmarole?
Pride and trophies, Rich.
Okay. Well, it's okay.
I'm not even positive they have a trophy at SC, but there is pride at stake. Absolutely. Now, the only limitation on them, they can bring any hardware that's on the market that they can get from their sponsor. The only limit is that they have to use less than 3,000 watts. If they go over that power cap, then a siren goes off, and if they keep doing it, they get penalized.
Okay. And Dan, this particular slide's all about LINPACK, though. Is that all they do?
Nope. LINPACK is just the first thing they do that they'll do on the opening night of the exhibition floor. And everybody's encouraged to go by and say hi and talk to the kids. And as you can see, I put up the historical LINPACK, and it's come quite a ways over the past 11 years.
No kidding. Wow. Okay. Holy cats. Yeah. I mean, well, there's been a lot of technological advancements,
yes,
but the benchmark has pretty much stayed the same as far as I know.
Benchmark has stayed the same, but you can see the march of technology. You know, you start looking at the inflection points like around ISC or SC16 or so, when GPUs really started hitting the market.
Yeah, interesting.
They hit hard. You can see another inflection point back in 2012 when all the teams started using GPUs.
Yeah. So what the GPU does there, it looks to me, Dan, is it's an accelerator for LINPACK floating point arithmetic that still lets you get under that 3,000 watt threshold. Would that be accurate? Yeah.
That's absolutely.
But the people who win, Rich, are able to use GPUs for more than just LINPACK.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, Henry. Next slide is showing the historical HPCG. All of the competitions starting in 16 started using HPCG as their other main benchmark test for the students. And you can see the historical results here. Not as much history, but we've seen, the scores more than double, the high scores more than double in just a couple of years. And HPCG is a much more real world, much more difficult benchmark.
But it is a more difficult benchmark, Dan, but I put forth the premise that its real worldness depends on the input parameters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's certainly more
But it's
representative of applications, Henry, than LinPack is, because it does stuff like
I
memory
totally
matters,
agree
right?
with that. I
Right.
totally agree with that. But if the matrices aren't large enough and things like that, and it's
okay.
able to fit in, those kinds of things, size matters. If you don't have enough memory, you got to do an out-of-core solution.
Yeah,
and
very true.
Boy, and it looks to be flattening out, Dan. It doesn't look like there's a lot of headroom on this HPCG.
Well, you'll see the same thing, though, if you look at, if you guys flip back and look at the LinPack. LinPack has flattened out a bit, too. In fact, the high score is from 2017 still.
No kidding.
Okay. And that means we haven't had a major hardware refresh since then.
Yeah, gotcha.
Or, Dan, or it means that they have not changed the input parameters to take advantage of the new hardware and the performance it provides.
Okay.
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, it could also mean they've hit the wall on how well these students can tune these apps.
Right.
All of which are possible.
And all of which probably play a role.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All
yeah.
Right. Well, tell us more, Dan.
Let's jump into the next slide. This is where we get into the actual HPC applications with a deep learning app called Horovod. I think that's how you pronounce it. I haven't run up against it very much. But it's essentially the communication layer of TensorFlow in a neural network.
Interesting. Okay. So have not heard of that, but TensorFlow, of course, is a very popular framework for these machine learning applications. So interesting.
Yeah. And so they'll be doing a TensorFlow exercise with Horovod, which is good. That keeps us all modern. On the next slide, OpenMC, which I would imagine maybe Henry's had some experience with.
Well, I'm going to go back to the TensorFlow thing. It'd be interesting on all these to understand the input data set sizes. Do you have any idea about that, Dan?
I don't right now because they're not going to release any information until the students get it. But if I have a chance, I'll talk to the judges after the students have gotten the code and try and understand what those data sets look like. There's usually multiple data sets because you got to remember, this is a 48-hour marathon.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is they don't trust you either.
Well, there you go.
Let me turn that around on you, Henry. Would you?
I would trust me, but I agree. I wouldn't trust you.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
So we're in agreement then. Again, one of those few times we agree. No one trusts.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm a reporter, and don't tell a secret to a reporter if you really want to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Rich, all reporters have hold until, and you guys hold things.
Yes, we do.
Your industry is good with that. I'm sorry. I trust reporters.
There's not too many people that break embargoes.
That's
and true. I know I'm certainly not one of them.
If it does happen, it tends to be just an error in
and it only happens one time because the reporters never trusted again.
Yep. You get on that list. Anyway. Okay, Dan.
Anyway, let's move on to OpenMC, Monte Carlo particle transport code. Simulates neurons moving through an arbitrarily defined model. I understand the Monte Carlo part, but that's probably about it without doing some further study. You got any input on this?
I do not. I did some things with Monte Carlo stuff a long time ago that simulated some of these things, but it's been, I don't want to say how long, Dan. Let's just say a long time ago.
Well, since Dr. Turing and you were close.
Yeah, this looks like something, I mean, they talk about experiments. So if you have a hypothesis, you can run the experiment computationally, just like you would in a chemical lab, right? Using this kind of framework. That's what it sounds like to me. So very cool.
And I think it's pretty cool that this thing demonstrates near linear scaling to over 100,000 processors, as they say in the description here. So the sky's the limit on this. Kids aren't going to run into any bottlenecks if they do their tuning right.
Those vectors in those GPUs add up to thousands and thousands of vector units. Certainly not to 100,000 at this scale, but maybe over 10,000. If you've got
Maybe.
like 6, 7, 8 GPUs in that box the students are putting together. So,
And all this talk of vectors is making me think that last night I saw Airplane again. With the whole, what's your vector, Victor?
What's your
Roger,
vector?
over.
Yeah, and don't call me Shirley.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Moving right
Dan.
along.
Yeah.
This next one, the reproducibility challenge, is really interesting new wrinkle that's come into the competition for, I believe, the second time. What they do is they select a paper and go through and have the teams reproduce the results.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
And
this
Well,
is a
what
big
if
deal.
what if the paper is wrong, Dan?
well, that's what I'm looking for.
do they validate the paper
Yes.
before? Okay.
Well, I don't know if they validate it before, but the students validate it.
What if the paper is wrong? That's all I'm saying.
Well,
Then
Henry, that's the
we'll
whole
find out.
That's the whole
That's
idea
the
of the scientific method is you gotta have a hypothesis and then run results, and they have to be reproducible. And the HPC side of that equation's kind of not been so good at the reproducible. And this is a big initiative.
Well, yeah, I understand, but with 48 hours, it's a fairness issue to me.
Yeah.
What do you mean fair?
Because, Dan, unlike you, I'm a fair person. And
Always looking to get the little jab in. You just can't resist.
you left me no alternative, Dan.
I guess not.
But I mean, the point is to be able to reproduce some data from a paper. If the paper itself is wrong and it has not been validated by someone else on the judging team, I think it's unfair.
I would imagine that they've done that.
All right. Well, you didn't
But
say that, Dan.
If you take a look at this, the students get a chance to start working on this before even the competition.
Well, then I feel better now.
Yeah. And if you look at the second page, there's two parts of this. It's on the next slide that they have an interview with the team just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And then the team does a report of their efforts to validate the paper.
Okay. I feel better, Dan.
Margins and a 12-point font size.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. So next slide, mystery application. Well, that's a mystery. Don't know what that's going to be. I'm thinking maybe Minesweeper this year.
Yeah. But they're not telling you, as we discussed
replicating
earlier.
a grid of mines 1,000,000 by 1,000,000 on each side.
Cool. But you don't even know, Dan.
I don't even know.
No, you don't even know. Okay.
I don't even know.
You don't even know. All right.
But one thing I do know about is on the next slide, and this is near and dear to Henry's heart, power shutoff activity.
I love that.
Sometime there will be at least one power outage.
Yeah. For all of them at once? Same at the same time?
For everybody at once.
Okay.
Same time. They go from booth to booth and turn off the PDUs. Yeah. And so the teams need to know how to bring the software and the hardware back from an unscheduled power outage and resume workloads.
And more importantly, there has to be no corruption in the power outage, or they need to be able to recover from that.
Yes.
So are they doing checkpoint restart typically, Dan? Is that part of their methodology?
Some do. Some
don't. It's up to them. It's
up to them.
It's how gutsy you want to be, Rich.
Yeah,
it's you know.
Yeah.
This
do you feel lucky, punk?
Yeah. Did I shoot 5 shots or 6 shots?
That's right. This brings a bit of the real life in. Now, what happened last year is that they did one of the power offs in the middle of the night, and there were a couple of teams that didn't have people there.
Oh.
So
they lost out on, 6-7 hours of processing time.
You know what?
Ooh.
That I won't say what I'm really thinking now.
Well, sure you will.
No, I won't.
No?
No.
It's well, Dan, there's the old saying, you snooze, you lose.
You lose.
Right?
Or I was going to say natural selection.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
And I'm going to try and have my cameras there when they do the power shutoff, because I hope that they'll give me a little bit of notice. Last slide here is the actual field of 14 that we have this year, and there are some power players mixed up with some complete newbies. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. First one is FriedrichAlexander University from Nuremberg, Germany, and they've competed in 8 competitions total. Brought home a couple of Linpack crowns, got a bronze medal, which is 3rd place. Strong team, powerful team. They'll probably be packing, at least last time they competed, they had a node where they had 8 GPUs on a 2-node box, 8 on each, so 16 total. I think they ended up using 12, but that was a pretty beefy configuration. Next one up is brand new Laney College. Don't know an awful lot about them, other than that they're in the United States, haven't competed before. Same with Monash University in Australia, who I've heard of, but I haven't seen them in a competition before. Next is Nanyang Technological University from Singapore, and they are hitters. They've been at 9 competitions. They won the gold last year at SC18. They brought home a silver and brought home a Linpack before. This is one of those teams that's been making a steady rise through the ranks. But they're going to have to contend with the likes of National Chenghua University from Taiwan, which has been to 13 competitions, brought home 2 golds, had a silver, a couple of bronzes, and in their early years, they were animals on Linpack. And they put together 4 winning Linpack efforts. Northeastern University has been around 4 times, hasn't really made the medal board except for an HPCG, which is sort of an informal medal because I'm now starting to track it. Purdue, 12 competitions, 1 HPCG, but Purdue's one of the universities that was one of the very first to do the competition back in 2007, 8, 9, 10. So they've been around a long time. Telkom University in Indonesia, don't know much about them. I'm going to have to start researching some of these. Texas A&M, we saw them at the Asian competition in spring of last year. Dan,
how do these new universities get invited? How do they make the cut?
Like everybody else, they put in an application, a proposal. It talks about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, do they have sponsors, all that kind of stuff. And the proposals are then weighed by the committee, and the best proposals come out on top.
Okay.
Take a look at this next team, Chinua University from China. They're going to try and make the Triple Crown this year that they've done before, which is to win all 3 major competitions in one calendar year. They've already won ASC 18, they've won ISC 18, and here they are trying to make the home stretch at SC. They've competed in 15 competitions total, and they've won 9 of them.
I wonder how many amphetamines they give to the students.
I mean, no, I would say that.
Test them for that. We're testing for performance-enhancing drugs.
Are you?
I am, yes. It's an informal thing. I don't always get people to participate, but it's great fun.
Well, they must have a heck of a great advisor team, is all I can say.
That's one of the things I was going to say at the end is, for any of these teams to get in, especially the ones that are 0, for the first time, the advisor has to be really good to help them write the proposal and organize the vendors and all that stuff. So kudos to all the people that are doing the volunteer work here.
The coaches and the advisors and the kids doing project management to keep everything moving.
And these kids they have a language barrier too, Dan. I mean, don't underestimate that, especially there's an interview piece of this. And if they struggle with English, I would guess that is not going to help them much.
We do have translators for the Chinese teams.
Uh-huh.
What about the Indonesian team?
Not sure, but I bet that at SC they will find one, or they have students that are skilled in English.
Okay.
But I just marvel at what Chenghua has done. And the thing, this is kind of the Harvard/MIT of Asia.
Okay.
They are hitters. University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign is going to be here for their third attempt. They've been in twice before. Good team. UMass of Boston, we haven't seen this particular institution, but we've seen teams from Boston in virtually every other competition.
And they haven't done. They have not fared well, if I remember correctly.
They've taken a lot of chances, and they haven't had them pay off. Like they came in with fat nodes once, four-way nodes. That didn't really pay off. Came in with Jetsons and all sorts of different accelerators. Didn't really pay off, but kind of an science experiment. But the kids are learning a lot. Next one up is University of Warsaw, which has been they've been at an SC, ISC, and an ASC, and they're trying their luck again at SC, and they're going to have a secret weapon. They're going to have an interconnect that's different from everybody else's, and I can't say anything more than that, or else I'd be pre-introducing somebody's product.
Can I guess? Because I don't know.
Don't do a pre-announce, Rich, if you do know.
I have a good guess is all I have. So I guess you don't want me to say it, so I won't, but it's not going to be...
Probably not.
It's not rocket science, Dan.
No, it's not. It's not.
These guys have been talking about this for 10 years. So, yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Fine.
You're exactly right. And we finish up with the Demon Deacons from Wake Forest in the U.S. Again, their first competition. But it's anybody's game once the machines boot up.
It is.
It'll happen.
You know what? Because hardware goes, a lot of it is, do you have extra, CPUs, memory, GPUs?
Yep.
Do you know how to fix it all? Yep. There's a lot of things. A lot of things can go wrong.
Well, no.
And for the love of God, you teams, if you're listening to this, bring a power screwdriver with you.
Oh.
Because that's going to make your rack, putting together your rack so much easier, so much faster.
Yeah. And what do they cost? Like $12 at Home Depot?
Yeah.
These things? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, guys? Thoughts, questions, comments?
This is exciting. It's always great to see all these bright. We need new people coming into this space because some of us are getting gray, like Henry, for example, and we need a new generation of young bright people.
We do need a generation. I'm way more than gray, Rich, but thanks.
And that's one of the things I notice when I'm talking to the teams is this really serves to pump them up for a career in computing, in HPC.
Yeah. And, even if it isn't HPC where they end up, with Hyperscale, everything's parallel these days. Even our phones have multi cores. This is just the way the world is. You got to have experience with making this stuff go fast.
Making it work.
Yep.
And experience with making it scale and recovering from things like power outages.
Yeah, and power efficiency. I mean, if our phones only lasted an hour, they wouldn't be much good, right? So, there you go.
That's about how my first one was.
Well, Dan, I guess, we don't really have time for Catch of the Week, but thanks for this, and we'll look forward to seeing your reports.
I do have a Catch of the Week. It is, and it's going to appear, and we're going to wrap this up because I know Henry has to get out to some personal problem. But while we're doing this, and this has to do with you, Rich, I am taking the Great Grand HPC road trip, and I will be covering 6 or 7 national labs, and it's going to appear in Rich's publication, and plus reports from the road will appear as well.
Wow.
I found a website that has all sorts of oddball waysides and things on my route.
Oh, nice. So Charles Kuralt.
Yeah, first one will probably be where Evel Knievel jumped the Snake River.
Well, that sounds terrific, Dan.
Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
On that hurried note, let's close this episode of Radio Free HPC down. You can all go home now and carry on with your business. Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
That's it for this edition of Radio Free HPC. And as a quick note,
The views and opinions of Henry S. Newman on this Radio Free HPC podcast are his and do not necessarily reflect any policy or position of Seagate Government Solutions or Seagate Technology. That's it for our show. We'll see you next time.